Hey, what's up all? There's been a lot of crazy things going on the last 2 days with the start of the legal tampering period for teams to sign free agents, with some big crazy trades and acquisitions happening along the way, with Arizona trading for Pro Bowl wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins in exchange for their running back David Johnson and a few draft picks that were swapped with Houston. And then with San Francisco trading DeForest Buckner to the Indianapolis Colts and re-signing Eric Armstead to a record-breaking deal, and all that. Seattle has remained pretty quiet, as usual for Seattle. Their biggest signings right now, they re-signed defensive tackle Jarran Reed to a 2-year deal worth $23 million, which is a good deal for what they were expecting to have to pay for him, where they were expecting to pay at least $15 million per year for him. So they got a little bit of a deal off of him because of his down season and all. They have also re-signed tight end Luke Wilson to a 1-year deal, which is with their tight end position right now. People are going to say, why do they need a tight end? But Will Gisley, he still hasn't survived longer than like 4 to 6 games at the start of the season. Tight end Greg Olsen has had injury issues, and then tight end Egg Dixon as well. And then Jacob Hollister, who Seattle just put a second-round tender on, keep him for another season. He's not a very good run blocker, but he was one of their leading receivers last year. So that makes sense for Seattle to re-sign Wilson for another year. I could see when they get closer to training camp and right after the end of the preseason, them cutting away their tight end, a couple of their tight ends. But with the new CBA that was voted on, each NFL team is allowed to have 2 extra roster spots, so Seattle could keep an extra tight end on the roster. A few more acquisitions that Seattle, players that Seattle gave extended their contracts to another year, so players that were already on the roster. Tight end Jacob Hollister, as I said, was given a second-round tender. He'll be paid a average for what he was for another season, like what he was being paid before from last year. But another team is allowed to match that offer or offer more. But if they do that, they will have to give up a second-round draft pick. So I don't think that's going to happen with a player like Jacob Hollister. He is a handy little tool, but I don't think he's worth a second-round pick, so I think Seattle's got him tied up. Wide receiver David Moore they gave him a 7th-round tender on him. And so there is a few teams that have been showed some interest in Moore, so he could be gone, but with this draft having a lot of wide receivers in it, I don't expect him to be gone. And then wide receiver Malik Turner is rumored to have been given a similar deal. So they have re-signed those players. As far as defensive players, they have re-signed defensive end, defensive tackle, Brandon Jackson to another 1-year deal. And then Jordan Roos and Joey Hunt were both given tenured as well. So it just seems more like they're trying to keep all the smaller players that were already all the players that were on the roster previously. I think Seattle wanted to get that all done and then go and focus on the big name players. Seattle does not usually start off, in day 1, day 2, signing big name players, or they don't get in the mix up, the jumble fight over a big name defensive end that's not Seattle's style. They wait until later and then they try to get their bargains. They're still trying to work out a deal with Jadeveon Clowney. There's rumors that they've been meeting with Clowney's manager, but from what it looks like right now, Clowney would like to test out the free agency market and get a price, like an offer from some other team, and then Seattle will see if Seattle can match that or go a little bit over. But at this point, Seattle does not have a lot of cap space. Unlike what they thought they did coming into the season. But with re-signing Jarran Reed and then all these other guys, not counting them, they had $39 million in cap space before re-signing all these guys, and they still got the draft. So I could see if they sign Clowney for $23 million a year, that's going to wipe out their whole whatever's left. So I could see them passing on Clowney and drafting another trading for a defensive lineman, a pass rusher. There were rumors that Seattle has made an offer to the Baltimore Ravens to trade for pass rusher Matt Judon. Baltimore has just recently put a franchise tag on him, so it's obvious he's going to want another deal. Seattle could trade for him and then give him a contract right after that, which would probably cost less than Clowney. But Judon is more of a linebacker, and he had help on the rest of that defensive line, so he's going to be, if Seattle trades for him, he's going to be another, he's going to have to do it on his own. Like, he's going to have a bunch of young people following him, and he's probably going to get all the focus from the opposing offensive lines, double teaming him, all that. Seattle is still in the trade talks for pass rusher Yannick Ngakoue. As like Matt Judon, Ngakoue also had a franchise tag placed on him just a couple days ago, and so Seattle, Ngakoue is a lot younger than Clowney and Judon, but Clowney is a better run defender. He doesn't have tons of sacks, but he's more of a disruptor. He creates havoc. Like, if you see the San Francisco game from last year when Seattle came against San Francisco had been unbeaten at that point, and Clowney was just a game wrecker. Like, if Seattle didn't have Clowney going to that game, I don't think Seattle would have won. As far as Ngakoue has a lot of sacks over his career with Jacksonville, but he is not as good of a run defender, so Seattle has to keep that in mind. And as far as other signings for players that were on Seattle's roster that needs to be re-signed, wide receiver Josh Gordon has expressed interest in coming back. The new CBA that was voted on now says that players that test positive for marijuana will not be suspended, which would be helpful for Josh Gordon, but since he's got the image of being suspended 6 different times, it may be hard for him. But if he can get another chance with Seattle, he could be another big threat in Seattle's passing game. There was those few different plays in the Niner game, the Minnesota game, and the big catch in the Carolina game where he was very valuable for Seattle. I can see if he starts out, if he can get re-signed by Seattle or get cleared by the league to play again, get re-signed by Seattle, and be able to make it through training camp, preseason, and start the season, he'll be a lot better and more valuable weapon than he was last year for them. As far as key departures that have left Seattle, offensive tackle George Fant has left for the New York Jets. He got a 3-year deal. And also, defensive tackle Quentin Jefferson is rumored to have left for the Buffalo Bills. So, 2 valuable players for Seattle that have played a big part in Seattle's wins and all that, with Seattle letting Fant go in free agency, signing with the Jets, and then the Tennessee's right tackle Conklin, who left, was signed with the Browns. It looks like Seattle's going to probably go after a tackle in the draft, and I can see tackle Jamarco Jones competing for that position. It looks like they're trying to save money on the offensive line. Like, it's not good because whenever they do that, they fall apart. But there's a lot of good talent in the draft this season for tackles. As far as Quentin Jefferson, Seattle, he was one of the most consistent pass rushers on Seattle's defensive line the last 2 years. But Seattle, they brought back Brandon Jackson, who's pretty decent. They re-signed Jarran Reed. They got Poona Ford. And I can see them re-signing defensive tackle Al Woods. They got Rasheem Green and L.J. Collier, who will both build off their last seasons, and I can see them getting better. Right now, they need to get a pass rusher in free agency, if that's going to be Clowney or Ngakwe or Judon. They need to get that done, get a guy soon, because most of all the pass rushers are gone at this point. Next valuable pass rusher next to Clowney is Dante Fowler, who is more of a linebacker. So I don't see him being as valuable to Seattle in that if they get him. And so you got that. So and then they need to get a defensive end in the draft. There's the Iowa State pass rusher. His name slips my mind right now, but a lot of people say that he could drop to Seattle. It's very possible with all these other teams ahead of Seattle who are interested in other players. He is a very athletic guy, very fast, quick, has a lot of numbers, a lot of sacks, and he's got more of the technical things down. He's a lot more of a polished player compared to some other ones that are more flashy, that will probably go up higher because they had crazy senior seasons or whatever. So I could see him falling to Seattle. So tomorrow is the start of the official free agency for players to officially sign their contracts and players to become eligible to go to other teams. So Seattle has one more chance tomorrow, before tomorrow, like tonight and tomorrow, to get Clowney back. And then they got a bunch of players, once free agency starts tomorrow, that they need to be looking for. For instance, they can be looking for a right tackle. Cleveland, their former right tackle, who interestingly played for Russell Wilson. He played with Russell Wilson in college, who has some familiarity with him. I can see Seattle going after him and getting him, like he's not a top tackle, so I can see Seattle getting a good deal on him. Seattle needs another running back. Mike Davis, who played with Seattle a couple years ago, is a free agent. I can see them going after him. There's a bunch of other young or older running backs who are available, like LaShawn McCoy. A bunch of young and older running backs that are free agents who are pretty inexpensive. And I can see Seattle adding another defensive tackle, Brandon Mebane, who the LA Chargers let go a couple days ago. So there's an option. Linval Joseph from the Minnesota Vikings. So there's some options for Seattle. So thanks for watching. I will be updating you on the next couple days on Seattle's big free agent signings. If they go and trade for someone, sign Jadeveon Clowney, I'll let you know all that great stuff coming up in the next couple days. So see you around. Be sure to like this movie if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to get more of my awesome content.